It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
G'day everyone and welcome to our FIFA 2022 World Cup daily live streams on the Trademate Sports Betting Podcast. Today we will be previewing tomorrow's, not group games anymore, hallelujah, tomorrow's round of 16 fixtures, which are Japan, Croatia, Brazil versus South Korea, and then the following day's round of 16 matches, which are Morocco versus Spain and Portugal versus Switzerland. As always, please send through any questions you guys have for us throughout the stream and we will get to them. Any comments, any bets you like, just throw them through and you'll get your name all over the screen. You'll get some time. Love it. Today we have top right-hand corner of your screen, Pro Sports Bettor Neel Shah. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Just one thing to say, it's coming home.
And Paul at the bottom of your screen from Feinting The Line. How are you, mate?
Howdy.
Well, I mean, if you ever think it was going to come home, mate, it'd probably be after that performance. I mean, a nice little 3-0 victory there, unless there was a goal at the end that I missed versus Senegal. Probably England's most convincing game of the tournament. Obviously, the Wales won, but, you know, it was against Wales, not much to play for. So, yeah, thoughts, mate?
Yeah, no, a good win. It's sort of, a solid win. I think Senegal gave us, a few problems, but, just kind of going forward when we kind of release the handbrake, I think we've just got a lot of talent up there and, we can always create chances. So the good thing, the main thing for me wasn't necessarily the scoreline. It was the fact that Harry Kane scored. He had a good game. He was kind of involved in the play. So I think that's going to help confidence-wise, because we're going to need everyone firing against France. So, it'll be very interesting.
Oh, I mean, what a game that's going to be, England versus France. So, yeah, looking forward to that one. And for you, Paul, thoughts on today's games? We also had France beating Poland 3-1. Shout out to all the people that backed France to win 0. Commiserations. I don't know how the goal happened. I've only seen the timeline of events, but or people that maybe potentially had France and under 3.5. I mean, yeah. What were your thoughts on that game, Paul?
It was a fun game to watch. I had just on like a primer type of bet. I had France like -1.25 or -1.75. So I think that last goal I only like half cashed, right? Because of that. Yeah. They only won by 2. So yeah, it was a really, really fun game to watch though. And just like England, Senegal too, a lot of goals in these knockouts games so far. So been fun to watch.
Yeah, really interesting how it's opened up a little bit going into the finals games. Already 4 games in, and has it been just about over 3.5 goals every game? Has it, or at least 3 or more goals in every game? So, it's been quite exciting, and we haven't seen extra time yet. So, I was thinking, I only thought of it before. We can't go live if the game's still going, so we'd have to. I was just a bit skeptical of England. I thought it was going to be a draw, but I got proved wrong once again that England are actually okay. So my fault. But just a shout out to everyone. If we are recording after a game and it does go to extra time, I guess we'll have to delay things and get on once the game is over. All right. Well, let's get straight into tomorrow's games. We've got Japan versus Croatia to kick us off. Got Japan at 4.1, the draw at 3.35, Croatia at 2.08, the Asian handicap at half a goal, and over-under is at 2.25. I find this one quite hard to break down. I just think Japan, it seems like every time they actually take it to the other teams, like Spain and Germany, they actually have a crack and don't sit back. They play bloody well and they score goals. So I'll be interested to see if Japan are a bit more assertive in this one. I think that would be my first question. I don't know who I'm going to. I know you guys have looked at different games each, so put your hand up if this is your assignment for tonight. but it's Paul. Mate, that'd be my first question to you. Would be, do you think Japan may play a little bit more assertively in this one? Because it seems like when they sit back and try and defend, they concede goals to the likes of Germany and Spain. And I mean, not Costa Rica, but they were taking it to them. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think they're gonna tend to just kind of play how they play. To be honest, I don't think they're necessary. They're just gonna try to do those little short passing patterns, basically, in little areas of the pitch. Rack up a couple quick passes and then try to move it on. And if they don't transition it, then that's when like Spain and Germany, I guess, we're getting like a ton of the possession. But when they transition it and they're able to set it to the other side, they can get some big gaps if the other team's like pushing forward. So, I mean, Croatia is definitely gettable. Like in the more of the legs department, I'd say. But I think this is going to be an interesting game. I mean, I'd tend to look, if I'm looking at the handicap, I'd tend to be looking at like an over again, maybe. I'm not going to bet this one. I am going to have one handicap play as well today, so I won't chicken out today. But I, I wouldn't bet this one probably, but if I was going to bet it, I'd look towards the over 2 at 1.7. It looks just maybe a little bit big to me based on the fact that all these knockout games have gone over 2.5. If I'm looking to get on goals, I'm not going to be on both to score compared to over 2 because I've got the security push with the over 2, and then both to score, I'm only getting evens for each team to score. So like if it's I mean, it's just a little bit odds against that both teams score, but you can get over 2 at a playable price. Like I'd rather go for the over 2. If it's me, I'd see Croatia getting a fair bit of the ball in this game, so I'm gonna have a player related bet on the passes. But as far as the handicap goes, I'm really pretty static odds on the but the handicaps, and Croatia's sitting there at evens. But I'd probably go for the goals if I was going to do it, as Alex said earlier. All these games and the knockouts have gone over 2.5. So one goal or one early goal can kind of crack it open in a sense, especially for teams that are maybe more even. Like if Croatia scored early, then Japan probably would see a fair, more significant portion of the ball you'd expect, and they'd be trying to push forward. But that can also leave gaps at the back. So I think one goal probably cracks it open in most of these games. If I was going to go somewhere with the over/under, I'd do the handicap, I'd go for the over goals, but I'm going to stick to two different props I have for this one.
Yeah. Okay, mate. We'll come to you in a second with those bets. Just a few that have come through now from the gents on the live screen here. Live stream. We've got no Pataya for Shannon. He likes Japan draw no bet. Says they run forever. I'm not sure what odds that would be at. Probably something around 3 or 4, I would assume.
It's 2.9, I think.
Oh, 2.9. Yep. And yeah, I don't think there's any more bets come through there. But yeah, do you think, Neel, that potentially Croatia are a little bit overpriced here? I mean, they have been pretty decent throughout the tournament. Their best game coming against Canada, but against Belgium, I thought they looked great in periods. But geez, towards the end, I mean, that last maybe 30 minutes of the game, they looked. I didn't like what I saw from them defensively. I mean, Belgium. I mean, Lukaku was wreaking havoc. He probably could have scored a goal or two. And yeah, I don't think it seemed to me that it just doesn't suit them to, sit back and defend the lead. Like they're probably better off, keeping possession and trying to take the game to the other team, which will be interesting to see if they did go a goal up against Japan. Maybe Japan spring to life and Croatia could sit back, how that would end up playing up.
Yeah, I mean, I've So I mean, one of my plays is actually just to take the odds on Japan, or you could, again, take a draw no bet. Japan have kind of drifted out since I took it, so actually the odds are even better. I think they have a chance. I think obviously Croatia edge it. Obviously they have more quality in that team. But what I've been noticing, sort of watching the games at the World Cup so far, is there's some teams that are kind of coming into this with kind of momentum and fitness. I don't know if anyone remembers the actual. I mean, funnily enough, the World Cup in Japan and Korea, because it was kind of brought forward. It wasn't its kind of regular time. That again, preparation time was limited for teams. The fitter teams generally sort of built momentum and did well in that tournament. And I think we're kind of seeing that a little bit here as well. So, which will come on to the Swiss game because they're definitely one of those teams. But I think, again, sort of Japan, I think Tomiyasu should be back now. I think he's kind of, maybe he will start the game. I'm not sure. But listen, you're getting odds of 4 on a team that's beaten Spain and Germany. Lost to Costa Rica, though, in all that. But I think this game suits them because I think they struggle to to be the kind of the favourite in the game, to kind of take the game to the opposition. Whereas I think this kind of suits them. Croatia have that slow build up. Again, they're not the quickest team. And Japan will be kind of high energy, sort of pressing in different areas of the pitch. I think they could frustrate them. I think they could nick a goal on the break. So I think the odds on Japan are generous. So, if you wanted to, depending on your risk tolerance, I'm happy to kind of just take them on outright and on the exchange and kind of trade out if they go a goal ahead. You can take a draw no bet, or, let's see, take a +1 on them. But I think definitely they've got a chance. They've got a real chance. And I think it's going to be a really difficult game for Croatia. I don't see loads of goals, but it depends on the game context. If there's one early goal, it kind of blows the game wide open. I think in the knockout so far, have we had any goalless half times? I think there's been a goal in most of the games, I think, before half time. It's kind of broken the trend of the group stages.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So again, it could be another one for a halftime 0-0. My play also is on passes, but I think it's a different one to Paul's, but kind of following the same logic as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll go to you, Paul, for your prop bets for this one, mate. What have you got?
Yeah, I've got a couple for you guys. So I'm going to first, the larger bet that I'm going to take, I'm going to target the attacking midfielder forward for Japan, Daichi Kamada. He's at under 29.5 passes right now at Bet365 at 1.83. And I would be playing that. I think he might have got 30 in one of the World Cup games. He's either 2-1 on this bet against the line or 3-0 in the World Cup games, but he plays further forward for Japan than he does in the club. And they also have Endo back tomorrow, so I expect him to be in that sitting role maybe, which I don't know that everyone's expecting that, but I think he had the yellow card suspension, right? So I think he's back. Even if he's not, it's Tanaka and Morita if he's not, but if Endo's in there, I like it especially even more. But I love the bet regardless because Kamada plays a little bit further forward for the Japanese, and I wouldn't see the Croatians allowing that much possession from him. So I do like his unders. And the other one I'd go for on the other side of the pitch is Brozovic. Everything kind of ran through him last game. He's 2 for 3 against his line, which I'm going to quote the one here is at the offshore books. At the prop builders, you've got over 76.5 passes for Brozovic at 1.86. You could also take it, though, at 365, over 78.5 passes at 1.83. And I'd ladder it for 88.5 and 93.5 at 4 and 6.5 respectively at 365, because if he does get it, I'd tend to see him getting a lot. The nice thing about the knockouts is the game state does affect the passes, but I think in this case for us it affects it positively, because if Japan get the first goal, then you expect Croatia to get a lot of the ball. They were already probably going to get a lot of the ball anyways, so if Japan score first, that's lovely for our Brozovic bet and for the unders on Kamada. If Croatia score first, however, I think the Japanese are going to end up sending a lot of bodies forward, in my opinion. So I really think that there's going to be line-breaking passes in between that midfield for Brozovic, and they always look to him first out of those three midfielders are trying to get him to turn it to the other side of the pitch. So I would be taking Brozovic here on the overs and Kamada on the unders. So kind of a linked angle. They're a little bit correlated, but not entirely. So be careful on your staking there. I like the Kamada bet a little bit better, but certainly like the Brozovic one a lot too.
All right, good stuff, mate. I'm just going through some of the comments here. Mind here likes Japan win or draw. Seems like a bit of a consensus here that everyone likes Japan in this one. You got I'm not going to try Lowen Smith. We'll just go with that one. He likes Japan to score over 0.5 goals. Loch Ness here is he's saying every game has been over 2.5 goals, which is kind of unheard of. Maybe it's time to just back the under 2.5. Is Alex furious about the Gabriel Jesus rumors? Well, obviously not going to be happy about it, mate. If he is going to be out for 3 months, that basically means Arsenal are going to collapse, probably. I don't think people realize how important he is to Arsenal. So if he's out for any kind of extended period of time, and you've got Eddie Nketiah coming in, not only is he a different player and he's also just not as good of a player. So we'll see how we go. All right, let's get on to the next game, which is Brazil versus South Korea. You got Brazil at 1.29, the draw at 5.8. And South Korea at 12.36. Asian handicap, quite big in this one, 1.75 and over under 2.75. I think you're doing this one, aren't you, Paul? Is that correct? Yes,
that's correct.
Do you think South Korea are a little bit lucky to be here? I feel like they got favoured a little bit with the draw. I think having Portugal in that last game really helped them out. You got who'd they beat off? Uruguay and Ghana from memory. Was it Cameroon? Sorry, Uruguay and Cameroon. It was Ghana. Sorry. I don't know. I just feel like they're quite lucky to be in here, and if they didn't have Portugal last in the group, they wouldn't have gone against a weakened Portugal side. Like the other teams weren't afforded that opportunity. So, do you think South Korea a little lucky to be here, Paul?
I don't know about I don't know about lucky to be here because Ghana were horrendous at the back. I mean, they were full sail everywhere.
They beat South Korea though.
They did, but I mean, I don't see how Uruguay and Ghana were any more deserving. Whoever got there is, to me, the most deserving. I mean, it is what it is. Okay. At this rate.
Sorry to all the South Koreans listening.
I mean, to me, it just is what it is. I mean, they got the points they needed, I guess. But anyways, the Portuguese team, like they played some. It was kind of a half mixed team, I'd say, but they played a lot of starters in that Portuguese team. I mean, most of those, the two center backs were their best choices and all that kind of thing. So I don't know exactly what you wanted Portugal to do in the last game. But anyways, as far as the game goes, it's one of these where I'm very tempted to take the overs again for similar reasons. And just as we started to record, there's been a little bit of steam on it. I saw it at 1.83 last I looked, and now it's at 1.8 Pinnacle. But again, I'm not going to play it officially again, the overs, but I just don't see how you can't look that way with the way the knockout rounds have gone for me. Korea to score is, I think, 2.4-ish. The over-under odds have been pretty static, and so have the handicap lines until now. Like I said, the over-unders are getting a little bit of push now on the overs, I guess. It looks like. But Brazil, that all their games have gone under so far in the tournament. They've been very pragmatic so far. So in that sense, it's also tough to touch the over or the overs. So basically, I'm going a different way. I'm going for the props again here. So if Neel wants to maybe talk about this game first, that's fine. I don't know if you guys know if Neymar is playing either. I saw a report that said maybe he is. I don't know how much.
I think he is. Yeah, I've seen. There's nothing official, but I think it's
right. I saw the same kind of. Okay,
yeah.
So we probably saw the same kind of thing. Basically, that he's, they're saying he's going to be in. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But that certainly helps my bets if he is in, and I'd say that also would help like something like Novers. Brazil are a lot more fluid with him in there, have a lot more attacking nous with him picking out those runners that are getting in behind. Without him, they don't really have that guy that can just pick those passes. And they got 3 guys, every one of them can get in behind. So really, that's what you need for Brazil to be clicking on all forces. So it might be a wait and see on Neymar. I'd say maybe if you fancy the overs, because I could see the South Korean backline getting done. Like, I'm not saying Alex's point isn't valid, that maybe they've, maybe it was against the odds that they've gotten here. I'm not saying it's not, but so that backline certainly is, can be got at. So especially with the pace that those Brazilians have in behind. So I guess I'll let Neel go ahead and talk about anything that he wants to look at with this game.
Yeah, do you want to just quickly answer also, is Kim Min-jae of Napoli fit?
He should be. I think that's what I've read as well. So yeah, he should be playing, which is a massive boost for the Koreans. Yeah, I mean, I kind of take your point, Alex, as well about Korea. They're a strange one. Even with this game, I was looking at it, and that's why again I said, Paul, you got an angle for this one, because I've been looking. They're a kind of scrappy team, and you've seen that already. Like, so they went down to Ghana, and they fought back. They ultimately lost the game, but they're not a team that will kind of sort of just happily take defeat. So even in this game, I think they'll be kind of scrapping and fighting till the end, and yeah, they could be a potential threat. But then Brazil don't concede many shots from the opposition. I think the Cameroon game, we kind of have to just ignore, don't even kind of look into any kind of analysis of that as a way that Brazil would play going forward. And I agree with Paul, having Neymar in that team is massive. But I think a lot of casual bettors will probably look at it and be like, okay, Neymar's playing, Neymar's starting, let's back Neymar anytime, to score a hat trick and all of that. But actually, if you want to be looking at the goal lines, I would rather look at Richarlison or Rafinha, who I think has been a little bit unlucky so far in the World Cup, and has got a goal in him. So maybe for Neymar to assist one of those two, or one of the other scorers to kind of get involved. But I would want to wait and play to see how they kind of shape up. I think Brazil could kind of grow into the game, kind of become quite explosive second half. They could take Korea to task, but at the same time, Korea, pretty tight. I was looking at corners as well, but actually sort of Korea did pretty well, surprisingly well on corners. So I was tempted on the corner handicap line, but not quite convinced enough, that again, Brazil might just have a heavy spell of possession and domination. I think if Neymar wasn't playing, I'd be more inclined to take that. But yeah, nothing sort of particularly strong on that game from me.
Yeah, Lock, correctly pointing out here too that South Korea's won every game on XG. I mean, some of them were like very, very small margins, but maybe I have just proven to myself that, yeah, South Korea probably deserved to be here. But yeah, I'm very much like what you said earlier. So what was that?
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Yeah, they won the XG battle, so it's kind of showing they have been competing.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I think there's goals in there. I could see. I mean, Brazil. So who have they come? They come against Serbia. They got 2 goals past them, even though they dominated, for most of that match, and they really ramped it up in the second half.
I think if that Serbian game happened in a knockout setting, I don't see how there's not 3 goals.
Yeah, I agree.
I tipped up overs in that game on the pod, which will lead me into some of my bets. But yeah, I don't see how that doesn't go overs if it's in the knockout setting. Not that the South Koreans have the forward nous that the Serbians do, so it's not exactly comparable. But
yeah. And then you've got the Switzerland game, which is, I think, Switzerland a very hard team to break down. The Cameroon game, I guess you can kind of just rule out because it's a weird game where they've got their second team on. But another thing that you guys haven't mentioned is Brazil have got a full starting lineup basically here that are completely rested. They've had a week off compared to Korea, who just had to scrap for everything to get the win against Portugal in stoppage time. So, I think the handicap's, what is it? 1.7 minus 1.75 for Brazil. I think that's pretty decent, above evens there. I can really see them winning by 2 to 3 goals. So if they do win by 2 goals, then you've got the 2.07. there above evens for that, and you win half of your stake, especially if Neymar's in. If he's not, then I can understand this line a bit more. But if Neymar is, if he's named, then I think that'll come in a little bit. We'll see Brazil maybe close at 1.2. Yeah, Paul, you got some prop bets for this one, mate?
Yeah, and I'd agree on it. It could hit a little drift there on lineup. I'd definitely say that if Neymar is named, I'd really agree with you there on the game market. So the bets I'm looking at, the first one, we've hit it as a best bet twice here on the podcast now in the World Cup. So it's going to be, again, the total tackles in a Brazil game. So at Bet365, you can get over 34.5 at evens. That's also at Bovada, any of the Bodog sites. And also at Boyle Sports at 1.95. I'd take it all the way down to 1.77 for that line. So we're getting 2 lines higher than 1 to 2 lines higher than it's been in the previous games in this World Cup. But Brazil have smashed the line every time. I think the least they got is like 39 in one of the games. And I had rattled off some stats in the other 2 podcasts, and I rattled them off twice, so I'm not going to go through them all again. But I just will say that I think the value is still there, despite that line being 2 tackles higher, for 2 main reasons. One is that I think Neymar is going to be in there, hopefully, and that alone can add 5 tackles in all reality to the game. And in terms of him either getting 1 or 2 himself, and then also creating, at least 3, I'd say. So I really like that again, and you can ladder that at Bet365 too if you're going to go over 37.5 at 3.25 and over 40.5 at 5. And the other reason that there's still value is just like we've seen this knockout bump in the goals, because you're seeing the teams, if they're desperate, they'll send more guys forward, more chance to concede again, etc. In the knockout round, we've also seen a bump in the tackles because you've got players. I mean, in a narrative way, based argument, you've got players that are probably a little bit more focused when they're sticking in, not as keen to get a yellow card this deep into a tournament, especially if they're already on one, and get that second yellow. But they're still more keen to stick in because they know it's do or die at this point. So it's a really fine line where we're seeing a lot of tackles in these games. I think almost every game has gone overs. I didn't check the tackles line in that England game, but I think all the other ones had gone overs in the knockouts round. At least the 2 yesterday did, and the Argentina one, I'm not sure if it did, but at least the other 2 did. So you normally get a bump in tackles generally in the knockout rounds anyways. And I just see that happening again here, and the fact that Brazil have covered this every time. Again, I think the line's probably playable because South Korea have a way below average, but the Brazilians dictate the game state, not the South Koreans. Okay, the Brazilians are the one that influence the game, and they're the ones that are dribbling in those wings and have all the heat maps popping up with ground duels and things like that. So I love the tackles here. In a related play, I'm also going to play the throw-ins, the Brazil team total over 20.5. They're somewhat correlated, so be careful with your staking. I like the tackles for a little bit heavier stake, but I also like the throw-ins over 20.5 at 1.9 at Bet365. Haven't seen this at any other books. Brazil hit this in both their games with the first team, and I do think the South Koreans will be able to get stuck in, like I said, on the tackles. So the reason these bets are correlated is more tackles, more ground duels near the sidelines leads to more throw-ins. So if you have more South Korean tackles, you're going to have more Brazilian throw-ins. So it is a little bit correlated, but I do think there's an edge on the throw-ins here. Like I said, Brazil hit this 2 or 3 games, and the South Koreans gave up more to the Portuguese and Uruguayans than their averages. Or then I looked at their group games. I think it was the Portuguese and somebody else than their normal averages are. So I still think they'll give them up, and I'm willing to stick some on that over 20.5 throw-ins as well at 1.9. So yep, if Neymar's in, both bets probably get a little bit boost.
Yeah, I just read a quick report now from the coach. He said he probably will play. It's just a matter of, that doesn't mean he's going to start. So maybe it could be a case if he doesn't start, and then if, they're struggling to get anything going, then they'll bring him on. So, we'll see how that all plays out. Morocco versus Spain. So this is in, 2 days-ish from now, a little less than that. Morocco at 6.69. The draw's at 3.84. Spain at 1.61. The Asian handicap is at 1. Over under 2.25. An intriguing game here. Morocco surprisingly topping their group. It's quite interesting, actually. I've been a big fan of Morocco, and then I was just looking at some of their underlying data, and they were actually, in terms of XG and all that kind of stuff, they weren't too flush overall. So some maybe, I think they would deserve it to win the group, but some people might look and say, yeah, they were just very clinical with their chances and able to finish some of these sides, their big win against Belgium and who they play, Canada in the last game. So this is a completely different game to what they would have gotten in any of their group matches, coming against the Spain side that's going to dominate possession. I guess the big question is Morocco have how many? I think they conceded 1 goal this whole tournament. Neel, do you reckon Spain might have a little bit of trouble breaking down this Moroccan defense?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one. I think, when you look at the odds on Morocco and then you look on the odds on South Korea, I don't think there's that big a gap between those two teams and their chances of actually, winning the game or keeping it tight. And there are question marks over Spain again. In the final game, they've kind of got a little bit fortunate because now they've got Morocco in this round by finishing second. I think I do look at that 1.6 and it's tempting because that will kind of drift out if Morocco keep it tight. You can see kind of Spain moving out closer to evens by half time. Can they hold out? They've been fairly decent in defense. They have got a threat in them. There might be a bit of spice in this game. There's lots of kind of Moroccans in Spain. I think of quite a few of the squad. I think that the Moroccan squad were born in Spain as well. And it's just a question of, so again, whether Spain can break them down. We know they're going to have the ball. Morocco, I don't think they won the possession count in any of their games in the group. So it's just a matter of, when really. I can't. You never know. But and so far we haven't had a shock in the knockout round. So there's definitely going to be one or two. There always is. But is this the game for it? So, yeah, again, the only things you can kind of safely predict is that the Spanish are going to pass us to death. But, I think, the bookies are kind of wising up to this now. I think the lines on some of the players, I think, they're kind of well in the hundreds. But one I've picked out myself is Gavi. I think because he has been subbed a couple of times already. But then, again, for this game, maybe the midfield might be rotated a little bit. If it is tight, he's going to kind of hopefully last the full 90. And I think the line was pretty low. It was 61 and a half for him. I think, again, against this Morocco side, which again, kind of 40-45% possession against other teams in this group, I can see that kind of racking up quite nicely. And, again, with Spain, could you go for a win to nil? And again, Morocco kind of, they are a threat, but are they going to be able to actually kind of get near to Spain? I know we were discussing as well in one of our groups about the card count. Again, what would worry me is, again, just Spain just kind of keeping the ball, and those cards might not come until quite late when when the Moroccans are maybe getting a little bit frustrated. But yeah, Gavi would be my play on this. And again, if Spain hit anywhere near evens, then I'm kind of going to jump on in the exchange as long as they're kind of doing well and the game's kind of going with their momentum.
Yeah, I think you can see how this game's going to look, but obviously Morocco have been doing a very good, they've been, I think the Croatia first game's a little bit of a weird one because it's the first game in the group. Both teams don't really want to take too many chances, but then, they kept Belgium to nil. Canada. I think Canada actually, they gave them quite a few issues. So I'm not going to sit here and say Moroccan defense is like, is like the next big thing, but they obviously can sit back and they can, defend their line. And if you take out that massive win for Spain in their first game against Costa Rica, which is a bit of a anomaly, it looks like now when you look at all their results since. Obviously, Spain are good for a goal in the game. You just wonder, like, Morocco on the counter, they're pretty clinical. They put their chances away. So, yeah, a lot of people in the comments here throughout this stream have, stated that they're a big fan of Morocco +1. Which is the line. So yeah,
what's the price for that?
Yeah, I don't know. I can see this going either way. Like, I can really just see Spain, easily winning like 1 or 2-0 or something like that. But I could see, being really low scoring and Morocco nicking one on the counter. It's an interesting one. What are your thoughts on it, Paul?
Stojan, thanks for being here. Hope I didn't butcher your name, but I tend to I don't necessarily agree, but I definitely think Morocco can certainly cause a problem. And for that reason, this is the one I'm going to go in on a liquid market here. I'll go for the overs, over 2 at 1.71. And if you want to do like a smaller stake on that, and then just because I want everyone needs to be smaller on my handicap bets, my liquid market bets than my props. But I do the over 2 at 1.71 there at Pinnacle, and I'd also like split your small stake with over 2.75 at 2.74 at Pinnacle. We kind of touched on the knockout round stats earlier, so I won't go over it again. But for these teams specifically in this World Cup, they've seen at least 2 goals in every game, except for the first game for Morocco, which was the Morocco-Croatia game. Which didn't have a goal. And I think I was on the first half draw in that game, but that was the early game. And if you remember, a lot of those early games were like tying and scoring low in the first half. Some people were citing the heat and things like that. But in a knockout setting, I really like this over 2, because if Spain are going to have a lot of the ball, like Neel said, probably that's just the Spanish way. But Morocco is certainly clinical on the counter, as Alex said. So I certainly think they can provide like impetus in the front and kind of latch onto the ball at critical moments and maybe trouble that Spanish back line with some pace. So I do like the over 2, because either way it goes, Morocco or Spain, if either one of them scores first, again, I see the game kind of opening up no matter which one scores, because Spain are going to throw everything forward and just go at it if Morocco score. And the Moroccans, if the game gets late and Spain's only 1-0 up, then that's going to be when they'll throw it forward. So I do like to push security there of that over 2. And I'd be looking at the overs in this one, because like I said, 1 goal cracks it open either way for me. So if I'll play the overs small here on this one.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all, mate. And for you, Neel, you got any bets for this one, mate?
Yeah, the one I mentioned before. So Gavi passes. Yeah. So his line starts at 61.5. So I'm kind of taking the full ladder on him. I think he's got a good chance of landing that. I think it's generous.
Yeah. All right, good stuff, fellas. We'll leave that one for now. It should be a cracking game either way. And lastly, today we have Portugal versus Switzerland. I think this is, out of all the games we've had so far, all the 8 games by the time, I think this is the most maybe competitive one out of all. Maybe you could shout Japan versus Croatia too, but in terms of like, 2 really good sides going at it, I think this is it's really interesting matchup here. I don't really know, like, in terms of how, like, I don't know how it's going to look, because I feel like both teams, like, tactically, especially Switzerland, they really, I don't know really what their style is. They're quite adaptable, changing all the time, and Portugal too. They are like naturally pragmatic, but when they have a crack, they look good. So it's really hard to know like what exactly this is going to look like. All I know is that I feel like Switzerland are being a little underrated here. Portugal have been, I would say, mostly underwhelming considering the talent that they have on the pitch. And Switzerland, I think Switzerland are a good team. And I think I think they could go really far in this competition. Just like they've got threat in they're good in every area of the pitch, and sure they may have conceded a few goals to Serbia, but they went goal for goal with Serbia and ended up winning. So especially Mbolo, the striker, I reckon he's been looking fantastic. I've been very impressed by him. So anyway, we'll go to you first on Neel for this one, mate. Yeah,
I mean, mate,
that's probably
you've literally said everything that I was going to say. You've stolen my thunder, because one of my bets is actually Mbolo to score for first goal scorer. I'm taking it each way. So basically, you win, and then you win a third of your payout if he scores any time as well. So definitely having a small player on Mbolo. I think he looks superb against Serbia. He's kind of growing in confidence. They're a really dangerous side for this Portugal team, especially. I think again, Portugal. You look at them. There's so much quality in that team, but they're very gettable. And there will be moments in that game where Switzerland will carve open chances. I think we saw earlier today, like Poland and France. Poland surprised me. They had like a little. They had some spells where they were really sort of troubling the French defense, and I see the same thing happening with the Swiss. And that Serbia game especially. But I think in general in the group, I think they sort of competed well with Brazil. Again, the first game of these groups were pretty tough for a lot of the European nations. Again, players were coming in kind of half cooked, and there was no preparation time. So you can't read too much into sort of what happened. But like I mentioned before with Japan, there's some teams that just look fitter. And I think with Switzerland, when you saw what happened, how kind of Serbia faded, and the game kind of settled a little bit, but because Switzerland kind of took that control in the game. It was a very kind of chaotic game. But the kind of second half, they just looked fitter, sharper, and I think that could be a potential edge for them. At 4.5s, I think that's a big price. I think it's well worth taking, or taking Switzerland on a draw no bet. I think they've got a chance of winning this game. Again, what do Portugal do? Do they get kind of handicapped by forcing the play through Ronaldo? Is that going to hurt them in this game? Who are they going to bring on in that forward line? I'd definitely be more keen. I would not be taking Portugal at evens for this game. Again, they should be the slight favourites, but I think it's a great price in Switzerland.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, God. Something stuck in my throat there. I like. I don't mind the goals angle in this one. Even
2.25 is a decent price. I think I could easily see this being. It could be a goal fest. It's even
like
for the
Switzerland have played probably the best. I mean, look at the odds. They're the best team in the competition. Brazil, and they lost 1-0 to them. I know Neymar wasn't playing. The XG on that one was 1.28 for Brazil and 0.39 for Switzerland. So, they were outplayed by just under an expected goal. But that's the best team in the competition. I mean, Portugal are looking a much a level or two down from Portugal at the moment. So these odds, I understand them because it's just so frustrating with Portugal. I reckon they could be one of the top three sides in this competition if they just had more of a crack and put if they were just more offensive. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this game, Paul?
No, I tend to agree with a lot of what you guys were saying. Just on the goals angle again. Like comparing which way you want to play goals, I'd be on the over 2 at 1.71 before I'm on the both teams to score at 2.04 personally. Once again, so that's just kind of theme in a couple of those games that I wanted to mention. But so if I was going to play this one, I'd probably lean towards the overs again. Again, that's not an official one there, but I'll play Mug for a minute. And like if you want to do like some primer bets on your account, to keep your account going longer, then I would maybe suggest like parlaying all the overs tomorrow or something. Like if you want a little like beer money on something, or like round robining them, like all the over twos for these 4 games, just round robin them. and if you wanted to take it a step further, like the over 2.75, because again, I see a couple situations in at least a few of these games where there's just, one team's winning at the end by one, and you have a desperate situation, especially if both can get on the score sheet, and then you're looking good on some of those. So, I mean, like I said, that's not an official tip or anything, but if you're looking for something to just to prime your accounts, or you want to throw a couple bucks on beer money on something, then that's probably where I'd look for some interest just over all these games. But I don't have an official tip for this game.
Yeah. Okay, mate. And another thing to mention, like the Brazilian team, is that there are at least half the team was rested for Portugal. So that's something to keep in mind if you do like Portugal, that they've got the likes of Ruben Dias, Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Felix, Carvalho. They all didn't play the other day. So they've had a week off, which could be quite a big leg up for against the Switzerland side that they were fighting in every single way possible until the end of that Serbia game. It was quite funny to see Xhaka get that card at the end. I thought he was no, the best. You know how we shouted out Mitrovic, or you did, Neil, to get that red card when he got the yellow card when he was standing in the wall. And he just and he kept talking to the referee. I was like, oh my God, it's actually going to happen. I thought if I was a referee in that situation,
I thought him and Zacco were both going to get reds at one point. It was they were both face to face at one point, grabbing each other's necks, and I'm like, yeah,
it's just brilliant.
So close.
Neil had a fiver on the double.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it was as close as it gets. It's just so funny that it wasn't for like a tackle or anything like that. Like Mitrovic was nearly about to be sent off just because he continued to abuse the ref. It's just
I mean, a brilliant way to go, absolutely. But,
about nothing too. about the wall. I'm like, what?
Mental
it's
game.
crazy.
I mean, I think I saw someone got over 5.5 Swiss cards. I think at 66-1. They kind of boomed that on Twitter. So well done to them as well. For playing that.
Yeah.
So lots of cards.
Not surprised that's come through. All right, fellas. We've gone through all 4 games now. We'll go to you first, Paul, mate. Out of all the games we've gone through today, what's your best bet?
Yeah, so I'll throw 2 out there. I like 2 a lot. The one is the tackles ladder for the Brazil game. So the best bet would be over 34.5 combined team tackles, Brazil, South Korea. You can get that at Bovada, bet 365, and I'd take it down to 1.77, but I'd also ladder it at 365. And then the other one I really like is Daichi Kamada. I think we have a tactical advantage there on the under 29.5 passes at 1.83, bet 365. 1.86 offshore, I believe.
Lovely, mate. And for you, Neil, what have you got?
Yeah, I'd go with Gavi passes in the Spain game, and then the Swiss, however you want to play it, for them to win. Draw a bet on a handicap, but something favouring the Swiss.
Yeah, so plus, I think it's plus 0.5 for the Swiss. You can get it around 1.95, I think, something like that. So yeah, that'll be an interesting. I'm really looking to that game. Out of all the games coming up, I think Switzerland versus Portugal will just be it'll just be fun. I think there'll be lots of ebbs and flows. It won't be like your Spain versus Morocco, where Spain it's gonna look the same the whole game. So be very exciting. You can find these gents on Twitter. You can find Neil at My Better Life, and you can find Paul at Feinting The Line, and go and check out their personal services that they offer the good people. And you can find me on Twitter at @AlexVella_.
I don't know what you mean by personal services. I mean, it's. I mean, we have VIPs in our groups, but there's limits to what we are prepared to offer.
Yeah, I forgot to mention.
I'm
sorry.
Man.
The personal. I shouldn't be
They've got
saying
back
this
room. They've got back rooms in Neil's service.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I forgot you haven't let everyone know about the private service yet, Neil. So I'll keep that quiet, mate. All right, thanks for listening, everyone. Make sure you do a quick rate and review of the podcast if this is your first time listening. Subscribe to us everywhere, like us on YouTube, do all the good stuff, and we will be back on We'll be back on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. to break down all of the fixtures, all of the quarterfinal fixtures. So far we've got Netherlands versus Argentina, England versus France. I mean, already just two very
Easy
exciting
sides.
games. We're starting to get into the proper heavyweight games. So, and I'm sure after this round we'll have some great games too. So, catch you all then. Thanks for coming on, fellas.
Oh, cheers. Thank you very much, Alex. Cheers to everyone tuning in. Some great questions tonight as well and comments.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.